So I'm talking to Daphne about my cars, and in walks Aaron. And I'm like, God, he's back. What'd you do, man?
Well, I basically just worked at the house.
Aaron Kaufman was the quiet force behind Fast and Loud, the man whose steady hands and sharp eye transformed rusty wrecks into roaring machines. However, at the height of the show's success, he walked away without warning, leaving millions of fans stunned and asking why. What followed was not the silence everyone expected, but a turn into controversies, personal battles, and a personal reinvention that few could have imagined. And when you hear the heartbreaking things that he has had to deal with, you'd be shocked. The rise of Aaron Kaufman. When Discovery Channel's Fast and Loud hit TV screens in 2012, audiences were immediately drawn into the chaotic world of Gas Monkey Garage. At the center of it all was Richard Rawlings, the loud and fast-talking owner who thrived on the thrill of the deal. But it didn't take long for another face to capture attention. Standing quietly in the background, often covered in grease with a look of deep focus, was Aaron Kaufman. His skill, patience, and eye for detail stood in sharp contrast to the whirlwind energy of Rawlings, and before long fans realized he wasn't just a supporting act. Slowly, Aaron Kaufman became the heart of the builds and in many ways, the secret weapon behind the show's success. Sadly, what fans didn't know at the time was that the fame and exposure that Fast and Loud brought him would also come at a personal cost he could never have anticipated. Aaron Kaufman was born on January 26, 1982 in Crowley, Texas, a small city just outside Fort Worth. He grew up in a working-class household where values like independence and persistence were part of everyday life. His father and grandfather were both handymen who spent countless hours fixing things around the house or in the garage, and young Aaron absorbed everything he saw. From an early age, tools became familiar companions. He learned that problems could be solved with a wrench, some patience, and the willingness to figure things out. This curiosity showed itself early. While most kids his age were content to ride their bikes, Aaron wanted to know how they worked. He would take apart bicycles, lawnmowers, and even household appliances, not always with the ability to put them back together perfectly, but always with a hunger to understand. Mistakes didn't discourage him. Instead, they fueled him. If something didn't work, he tried again until it did. This trial and error process became the foundation for the way he would approach mechanical challenges later in life. One of his defining childhood memories came behind the wheel of a 1968 Ford F-100 pickup truck. It was the first vehicle he ever drove, and it sparked something that would never fade. That truck wasn't just a means of transportation. To Aaron, it was a symbol of freedom, independence, and craftsmanship. Its rugged design and classic lines stirred his fascination with American trucks and hot rods, and from that moment forward he became interested in transforming machines into something better. After finishing high school, Aaron enrolled at a college in Lubbock, Texas, but the traditional classroom environment couldn't hold him. His restless energy and passion for hands-on work pulled him in a different direction, and before long, he dropped out. He didn't earn a degree in mechanics or engineering because that was never his path. His education was the garage, and his professors were the countless engines and frames he tore apart and rebuilt. Every failure taught him something new, and every success built his confidence. In the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Aaron began working in small garages where his reputation began to grow, and he immediately stood out because of the way he approached projects. Precision mattered to him, but so did creativity. He had a knack for seeing potential in old machines that others might dismiss as junk. He could imagine a vision for a build before it was even started, and then he had the skill and patience to bring it to life. That blend of speed, accuracy, and artistry set him apart, and soon his name started circulating among people in the automobile community. Hot rods and custom fabrication became his specialty. He loved the challenge of taking something old and worn out and transforming it into a sleek, powerful machine that turned heads. Each project was personal, and he treated every build like a canvas. This reputation came from his talent and dedication, his countless hours in the garage, long nights filled with trial runs, and the willingness to push past frustration when things didn't work as planned. His patience, combined with relentless experimentation, made him one of the most respected young mechanics in the area. By the late 2000s, Aaron Kaufman had carved out an identity as a master fabricator with a distinct style. People noticed the quality of his work and the efficiency with which he delivered it. And it was that balance, that unique combination of imagination and discipline, that eventually caught the attention of Richard Rawlings, a larger-than-life personality with big ambitions for a Dallas-based garage he called Gas Monkey. Their meeting would change everything for Aaron, and although he didn't know it yet, the skills he had developed since childhood had prepared him for a stage far bigger than he ever imagined. This next chapter would not only bring him fame, but also introduce him to millions of viewers around the world. Joining Fast and Loud. In the early 2000s, Aaron Kaufman was working at a local Dallas area shop when fate brought Richard Rawlings through the doors. Rawlings was already well known in the Texas car scene, always chasing new projects and bigger opportunities. But what caught his attention that day wasn't just another mechanic tinkering away, but a young fabricator who could turn raw parts into something remarkable. Kaufman had a natural flow when working, moving from idea to execution with a confidence that stood out. Rawlings saw in Aaron the kind of talent that could take his vision for Gas Monkey Garage beyond just another local operation. And just like that, a partnership began forming between the two men. Not long after, Kaufman was invited to join the shop as lead mechanic, and this was the beginning of a working relationship that would soon become a television phenomenon. When Discovery Channel launched Fast and Loud in 2012, the premise was straightforward but addictive. Find classic cars, restore or customize them under intense deadlines, and flip them for profit. Cameras captured the drama of negotiations, the chaos of the workshop, and the satisfaction of a finished build roaring to life. At the center of the mechanical side of the show was Aaron Kaufman, whose presence was undeniable. Every major build depended on his ability to manage the technical work, troubleshoot problems under pressure, and make sure deadlines were met without sacrificing quality. Viewers noticed quickly that Rawlings brought the energy and the deals, but Kaufman made the cars possible. Kaufman's role on the show was clear. He was the lead mechanic and fabricator. He oversaw the shop floor, guided the other mechanics, and put his stamp on every build that left Gas Monkey Garage. What set him apart was his calm focus. While chaos unfolded around him, Kaufman worked steadily, methodically, and with an attention to detail that made the difference between a rushed job and a signature piece. His beard, which became something of a trademark, only added to his quiet but commanding presence. In fact, fans began referring to him as the Bearded Wonder, a nickname that stuck both inside and outside the garage. One of his most memorable projects on the show was the 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback, a performance-heavy restoration that pushed the boundaries of what could be done on the show's tight schedule. There was also the 1931 Model A Rat Rod, another build that allowed Kaufman to blend raw fabrication with a sense of style that viewers hadn't seen before. The audience quickly connected with Kaufman, and soon he became more than just a mechanic on a reality show. But behind the scenes, his influence stretched beyond the garage. His builds elevated the Gas Monkey Garage brand, giving it credibility in the custom car world. Fans tuned in to see what Kaufman would create next. As the show gained popularity, Gas Monkey merchandise began selling worldwide, and its social media presence exploded. Kaufman's work was at the core of that growth, helping transform a Dallas garage into a global brand. Yet even as the show reached new heights, cracks began to form beneath the surface. The very qualities that made Kaufman successful, like his precision, patience, and unwillingness to cut corners, were increasingly at odds with the fast-paced, television-driven demands of the show. While fans celebrated the builds and the finished products, the pressure behind the scenes was mounting. Kaufman had built his career on doing things the right way, and the environment of constant deadlines and television schedules was pushing him further from that ideal. This tension would eventually come to a breaking point setting the stage for one of the most talked-about decisions in the history of the show: why Kaufman left the show. By the end of 2016, Aaron Kaufman's name had become inseparable from Fast and Loud. Fans tuned in as much for his calm approach and meticulous builds as they did for the larger-than-life energy of Richard Rawlings. And that's why the announcement of his departure came as such a shock. The decision became public in late 2016, but it wasn't until the finale of Season 8, which aired the following year, that viewers truly grasped the reality. The bearded mechanic who had helped turn Gas Monkey Garage into a global brand was leaving, and the suddenness of the news left fans both stunned and confused. For many, Kaufman's exit felt abrupt, but the reasons had been building over time. The pace of the show was one of the biggest issues. Production schedules forced the shop into 9-day build cycles, which meant cars were being turned around at a speed that left little room for the kind of detail and craftsmanship Kaufman valued. He had spent years developing a reputation for precision and creativity, and the show's emphasis on quick flips began to clash with his personal standards. Rushing through projects satisfied the cameras but left him frustrated, and over time, the constant pressure wore him down. The creative differences extended beyond deadlines. Kaufman wanted to push into larger, more ambitious projects, cars that required engineering innovation and deeper mechanical challenges. However, the show's formula relied on fast turnarounds and dramatic negotiations. This conflict created tension not only with producers, but also with Richard Rawlings. Kaufman envisioned builds that could elevate his craft to new levels, but the structure of the show kept him boxed into the same routine. The workload also took a toll. Filming a reality show that demanded constant output meant Kaufman and his team were often logging close to 100 hours a week. Travel demands added to the fatigue, pulling him away from the workshop and draining the energy he preferred to devote to the builds themselves. Over time, burnout set in. Even for someone as dedicated as Kaufman, the relentless pace was unsustainable. His passion for cars remained, but the conditions around him made it harder to enjoy the work. Behind the camera, his relationship with Rawlings was not as close as many viewers assumed. They worked well together in front of the audience, but off-camera, the connection was limited. Kaufman wanted greater input into the direction of the builds and the long-term vision of the garage. He felt that the show often prioritized on-screen drama over the quality of the cars, and that shift conflicted with the values he had carried since childhood. What began as a shared vision gradually became two very different approaches to the car business. When Kaufman finally walked away, the automotive world reacted quickly. Industry outlets covered the story in detail, dissecting the reasons for his exit and speculating about what might come next. Fans were divided. Some praised his decision, understanding that his standards and health had to come first. Others were more critical, placing blame on Rawlings or the producers for creating an environment that drove him out. Discovery Channel released a measured statement, acknowledging his departure without assigning fault. But it was clear that losing Kaufman was a major change for the network's flagship car show. The impact on the show was immediate. Although it continued without him, something fundamental had shifted. Fans missed the balance he brought to the series, and many felt the builds lost a sense of authenticity. Ratings began to slip in the seasons that followed, and while Rawlings still delivered the entertainment and the deals, without Kaufman's steady craftsmanship, the show struggled to capture the same magic. By 2020, Fast and Loud had ended its run, closing the chapter on one of Discovery's most successful automotive programs. But for many viewers, the decline began the day Kaufman walked away. After Kaufman walked away from Fast and Loud, attention slowly shifted from why he left the show to the stories that began to swirl around his time on the show. Fans who had followed every episode started digging deeper, and before long, controversies became part of the conversation. The controversies that followed. With Aaron Kaufman's departure from the show, curiosity around what had really gone on behind the scenes grew louder. Fans who had followed the show from the beginning began piecing together theories, and soon controversies became part of the conversation. Some revolved around the show itself, while others were tied to Kaufman personally, even if he rarely addressed them directly. From the start, Fast and Loud leaned heavily on drama to keep audiences hooked. Negotiations were intense, deadlines were unforgiving, and the builds always seemed to hang by a thread until the final minutes of an episode. But over time, accusations surfaced that much of this drama was scripted or exaggerated for television. Viewers pointed out that certain last-minute saves looked rehearsed, while others noted how often deadlines were magically met in the nick of time. In fact, multiple industry insiders suggested that some of the tight timelines were created more for television tension than actual garage logistics. There were also claims that not every build fans saw on screen was completed entirely in-house. Rumors circulated that some projects were either finished off-camera or partially outsourced to other shops. This speculation gained traction whenever viewers spotted inconsistencies in footage or when builds looked more polished than the timeline suggested. Although Discovery Channel never confirmed or denied these claims, the whispers fueled several debates about how much of the show was authentic craftsmanship and how much was television editing. Questions also arose about the conflicts between cast members. Fans had seen arguments play out between Kaufman, Rawlings, and other crew members, often escalating at just the right time for dramatic effect. Some supporters of Kaufman wondered whether these disagreements were genuine or encouraged by producers to heighten the tension, while others suspected that real disagreements may have been amplified for the cameras. But what remained unclear was where reality ended and where scripted television began. As Kaufman's exit settled in, another wave of speculation took hold. Internet rumors began to claim that Kaufman and Rawlings had fallen out personally or even ended up in legal disputes. Stories spread across forums and social media, suggesting lawsuits or business battles behind the scenes. However, no court records ever surfaced to back up those claims. Both men maintained professional statements whenever asked, and neither confirmed that any serious dispute had taken place. There were also whispers about Kaufman's health. Some speculated that his long hours and high-stress schedule had taken a severe toll physically, while others wondered if medical issues had contributed to his decision to leave the show. While these claims were never confirmed by Kaufman himself, the speculation largely grew from his sudden departure and the burnout he had spoken about in interviews. Through it all, Kaufman kept his approach consistent. While controversies swirled online and in the media, he avoided feeding them. He rarely responded to rumors, never fanned flames about drama, and kept his public tone professional. When fans asked, his answers were measured, focusing on his desire for creative freedom and better balance in his life. He never attacked Rawlings or the producers directly, and he made it clear that his focus remained on the craft rather than the noise surrounding it. This professionalism, combined with his reputation for authenticity, protected him from much of the fallout. Despite the noise surrounding his departure from the show, Kaufman concentrated on building his next chapter away from the cameras. And behind that quiet focus, a more personal struggle that would test him far more than the rumors ever could began to unfold. Kaufman's personal battles. When fans first met Aaron Kaufman on Fast and Loud, they saw a skilled, calm, and reliable fabricator who could pull off complex builds under impossible deadlines. But what they didn't see was the toll that kind of pressure was taking on his body and mind. Years of working in garages, combined with the added demands of reality television, left Kaufman with challenges that he eventually admitted he could no longer ignore. His personal battles, though often kept private, shaped the direction of his life after the cameras stopped rolling. One of the biggest struggles Kaufman faced was physical pain. Long hours spent leaning over engines, grinding metal, and lifting heavy parts had taken a toll on his back. Chronic back pain became part of his daily routine, something he worked through even when it slowed him down. His passion for racing and fabrication work also came with its share of injuries. He suffered strains, bruises, and other wear and tear injuries that accumulated over the years. In interviews, he acknowledged that he often pushed his body beyond healthy limits, motivated by deadlines and his own drive for perfection. The fast pace of the show only magnified the problem. leaving him little time to rest or recover. Unfortunately, this physical exhaustion went hand in hand with mental strain. Kaufman admitted that during the peak filming years of the show, stress was constant, and the relentless cycle of builds, deadlines, and filming left him drained. Although he had a loyal fan base and recognition around the world, he often felt isolated. Fame did not erase the loneliness of working endless hours or the frustration of being unable to pursue the projects he truly wanted to build. The gap between what the audience saw and what he experienced privately grew wider with each season. Burnout eventually set in, and Kaufman realized he needed time away from the spotlight to recover both physically and mentally. Another challenge Kaufman wrestled with was his sense of identity. Surprisingly, he had never set out to be a television personality. From the time he was a boy taking apart bicycles and lawnmowers, his goal was simple: to create machines that worked better, looked sharper, and pushed the limits of design. And so, the sudden shift into celebrity status didn't sit easily with him. Fans adored him, but Kaufman struggled with the label of reality TV mechanic. He wanted recognition for his craftsmanship, not for being part of a show designed to entertain. The constant attention and the expectations that came with it left him feeling disconnected from his true self. When Kaufman finally stepped away from the show, it was not just a career move but a necessary act of self-preservation. He took time off to focus on his health, giving his body a chance to recover from years of strain. He began to prioritize rest, reflection, and personal growth. Away from the cameras, he found space to breathe and reset. The break also allowed him to reconnect with the grassroots car culture that had inspired him in the first place. Instead of working under the clock for a television audience, he could once again immerse himself in projects that spoke to his passion rather than production demands. Rebuilding at his own pace became a form of recovery. Kaufman began choosing projects that interested him, not ones dictated by deadlines or ratings. He reconnected with car enthusiasts on a more personal level, attending events and sharing his knowledge without the filter of television editing. This period marked a return to the values of hard work, independence, and curiosity he had grown up with. For Kaufman, stepping away from fame was not about walking away from cars. It was about reclaiming his love for them on his own terms. And as he regained control over his path, he began shaping a future that reflected his values more clearly than any scripted deadline ever could. This turning point set the stage for the next chapter in his journey, where fans would finally see what Aaron Kaufman had been building toward all along. Aaron Kaufman today. After leaving Fast and Loud, Aaron Kaufman wasted no time carving out a new chapter that better fit his vision and values. In 2017, he founded ArcLight Fabrication in Dallas, Texas, a shop dedicated to producing aftermarket parts for classic Ford F-100 trucks. The company quickly developed a reputation for its attention to detail and commitment to quality. Kaufman's focus was not on mass production or flashy marketing, but on delivering parts that reflected true American craftsmanship. For him, ArcLight was a way to return to the grassroots car culture he loved, while also building something sustainable that allowed him full creative control. By centering the shop on classic F-100S, a truck that had defined his early automotive passion, Kaufman tied his professional identity back to the machines that first inspired him. ArcLight Fabrication became more than just a business. It was a statement. Kaufman had walked away from the pressures of television production to build at his own pace, and ArcLight gave him that freedom. The shop allowed him to design, fabricate, and experiment without worrying about camera crews or scripted deadlines. Customers and fans appreciated the authenticity of his work, and the company earned respect in the automotive community for staying true to its niche. Through ArcLight, Kaufman proved to his fans that he wasn't chasing celebrity status, but excellence in a field he genuinely loved. Even after leaving Fast and Loud, Kaufman didn't step away from television completely. In 2018, he launched Shifting Gears with Aaron Kaufman on Discovery Channel. This new series gave him the chance to explore larger and more challenging projects, the very kind he had long wanted to take on. The builds were more complex, the timelines more reasonable, and the focus was on innovation rather than entertainment drama. Fans welcomed the change, praising the show for highlighting the craft and creativity of automotive work in a more authentic way. A year later, in 2019, Kaufman expanded his horizons even further with another series, Aaron Needs a Job. This show took him outside the garage and across America, where he explored different industries ranging from heavy equipment to firefighting to military vehicle operations. The format was educational and gave viewers a broader sense of Kaufman's curiosity and willingness to learn. While it was a departure from hot rods and custom trucks, it brought to light another side of him, a craftsman with a deep respect for skilled labor of all kinds. Both shows were noted for their authenticity and the absence of manufactured drama, reinforcing the values Kaufman had carried since his early days. Outside of television, Kaufman has also pursued his love of racing. He became active in pro-mod drag racing and hill climb competitions, testing his skills in high-performance environments. Events like the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb and the Texas Mile allowed him to blend his passion for building with the thrill of competition. Racing became another outlet for his creativity, giving him a chance to push machines to their limits and share that excitement with fans. He has continued to update supporters through social media and YouTube, providing glimpses into his projects, races, and the day-to-day life at ArcLight Fabrication. In public reflections, Kaufman has been open about the lessons he learned from his years on television. He frequently emphasizes the importance of creative freedom and the need to maintain balance in high-pressure industries. His own experience with stress and burnout has made him an advocate for mental health awareness, especially in trades and professions where long hours and constant demands are common. He also encourages young builders to focus on passion rather than fame, reminding them that the best work comes from dedication to the craft, not from chasing fame. Today, Kaufman continues to live in Texas, running ArcLight Fabrication full-time. While he occasionally appears at car shows, industry panels, and special events, he prefers a low-profile lifestyle that allows him to keep his focus on building and innovation. He has chosen to prioritize quality over publicity, ensuring that his reputation rests on the strength of his work rather than his visibility. For fans, Kaufman remains an enduring figure in the automotive world, especially because of the way he has stayed true to his passion. His journey shows that stepping away from the spotlight doesn't mean fading away. Sometimes it means building a legacy on your own terms. Do you think Aaron Kaufman made the right decision by leaving Fast and Loud? Drop your answers in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.